Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about some signs that your relationship could be in trouble. And these signs come from research that's been done by the Gottman Institute. Specifically, we're going to talk about several things that this institute, through a bunch of surveys of couples over the years, has been able to implement into an equation that ultimately can predict with 94% accuracy whether a couple did break up or whether they will in the near future. And
That's
so,
crazy.
yeah, I know. And so basically, as we go over these, they're just things that you want to keep an eye on, things you want to try and remedy.
Yeah, remedy is the big thing. Like when you see stuff like this, like it's good if you want to be with your partner to work on this stuff.
Yeah. And
Like
but obviously, reality check, if the more of these you have, the more difficult it's going to be to kind of undo them, because it could be that your relationship's already kind of sinking.
Fizzled out.
Yeah. So with that said, some of these might seem kind of obvious to you, and they should. And the first one would be if, when you think about your relationship, most of the memories you have are negative.
Oh my goodness, this reminds me of working as a hairstylist, like, and just hearing my clients' stories about their husbands, and I'm like, oh my God. Like I just couldn't imagine like talking about that. Even when I was in a not great relationship, I would never like speak like that, but that's like a huge sign.
Yeah, and it's important to keep in mind that there's a negativity bias here where we tend to focus on the negatives. And so you have to be honest with yourself. If you're like actually thinking about your relationship and you're trying to think of positive things and that list comes up short, then this is when this applies. But if you have a long list of positive plus a long list of negative, it's more like a mixed bag. It seems like you guys just have some issues that you can really hammer out, because you do have a lot of positive experiences alongside the negative. And that just means that you have a rocky relationship that needs more work.
Yep.
So moving on, then the next one would be if you don't have a lot of fondness or admiration for your partner, or respect.
This one shows up a lot when you settle.
Yeah, people become resentful.
Yeah, and then you're like, in the beginning, you're like, oh, they'll change, like, I'll get them to change. And then it turns into them not changing. And then you're like, I don't even like this person. Yeah. You don't, like, for whatever reason, you just don't have a lot of admiration for them. And that's a red flag. You think they're lazy, or there's a bunch of descriptive words you can put in here, but.
Yeah. And this is different from them having like a habit that you don't like. Like, this is literally, if you think about them as a whole person, you're just not happy with them. You're either annoyed or that's a red flag. Yeah. So this kind of plays into the next one too, which is that when you talk about your relationship, it's mostly, you're talking about yourself rather than you as a couple with the other individual. Yeah, a lot of meanness instead of like we-ness, right? Yeah, it's you drop the us. Yeah, it's like, I need this. Yeah, it's him and I, not us, or I need this, focus on my needs rather than what the couple need, what we both need. Focus on like, how can I get through this, where you're very independent rather than how can we work together to overcome this. And this gets into avoidant attachment styles too. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. I know it was. That's what I was thinking too. And we have personal experience with that one because we're both avoidant. So not supposed to be a match, but yeah. So I mean, it is one of the things, because we're both very independent, and so whenever we encounter struggles, it's always like, what can I do to overcome this? And so one of the things that we are still actively working on is trying to incorporate the other person into our solutions. And get more us rather than me. And by doing that, you frame your obstacles as something that you're both overcoming. Yeah. And like, even if it's just like mine, right? We're both overcoming it together, because I mean, he is giving me support, right? And so it isn't just you think of it like a team sports. Like, if, I don't know if you're soccer, football, basketball, whatever, the question is never, how can I, you know, score a goal? The question is, how can we work together to score a goal?
Yeah, I did this a lot. Like in my cancer, I thought it was like me, like going through it. And I felt bad for even having you go through that with me.
Yeah.
And that was a very I perception.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt bad for you having to go through it, is because I had an I perception.
Yeah. And with a lot of things, you know, a lot of things, there isn't necessarily anything the other person can do in terms of like tangible actions. Yeah. But they can still be there as a support system for you, and that's teamwork. That's still,
and that's what a relationship is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's all we want to say about that. So
the next one is talking about your partner or relationship history in an impersonal way. I guess I started doing that in my last marriage.
Yeah.
Like around the abuse, I definitely did. Like I would talk about it like in such a
distant
kind of like matter of fact. Like people would, when I first left, I would explain why I did, and it was so like unpersonal, yeah. Right? It was just, these are the facts. Like that's what happened. He strangled me. Like I told my mom that while I was married to him. Like it was just like a fact. And we're going to stay together. And like,
yeah, you become dissociated from things that happen in the relationship. They don't really spur an emotional response from you as much. Yeah. It's very dispassionate. So that's another red flag. Yeah. And then another one, which again ties everything we've talked about together, is that when you have relationship struggles, they really serve to push you further apart rather than at the very least keep you where you're at, but ideally pull you closer together through mutual overcoming of that struggle.
And that is the purpose of a relationship. But I think a lot of people don't understand like the purpose of marriage outside of like having children.
Yeah.
Like I really think people don't understand relationships outside of that context. And it is having a partner that overcomes something with you. Like,
yeah, someone that grows with you mutually.
Yeah, that's what the goal is.
Yeah. And
so if you're growing on your own separately, and what's the point of being in a relationship?
Yeah. Right. And so, I mean, not every struggle is going to bring you closer together, but ideally that's what would happen. At least in the long run, right? Because maybe a struggle temporarily pushes you apart. You're both irritated, annoyed at each other, but you learn something from it so that you can ultimately work towards getting closer together through future similar struggles.
Yep.
Okay, and the last one would be that the relationship falls short of your expectations. You entered into it, you had a game plan, you had an idea in your head of what this relationship was going to be like, and it's just not quite meeting what you expected.
Yeah, that one, that I think is a personal kind of thing where you need to fix on the inside, because when you put up expectations for other people to meet, like that weren't present in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
Like that means that your expectations changed, and you need to communicate that.
Yes, but also this gets into complacency. So maybe you had expectations entering into the relationship because maybe those expectations were mutual, or maybe there was mutual agreement of what you both wanted to accomplish, but then the other person changed their mind. And now as the relationship has progressed, they haven't quite been a team player towards this overarching goal that you had both had in the beginning. And so where you're at now, it's like, this wasn't what we agreed to. This wasn't what I had in mind. You know, you made these promises, so to speak, of what I could expect in the relationship. And that's why we went into a relationship, but now you're not doing it. Like, I mean, that in that case, it wouldn't really be fair for someone to change their expectations because the other person isn't living up. So context here, as always, context, right? But yeah, that's a big one, is if you realize expectations are not, or if things aren't meeting your expectations, you got to ask why. And
healthy couples discuss and communicate their expectations.
Yeah.
Like what I was saying is that I think a lot of people like go into these relationships
without the communication.
Yeah.
So
then they don't know, like.
Yeah, they set expectations that were never communicated to the other person. And so the other person doesn't meet these arbitrary expectations that you
they
have.
Didn't even know.
And now you're upset at them. Come on, reality check. So yeah. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, so yeah, again, these were basically six things that predict with great certainty whether your relationship is in trouble or not. And so if you have,
so pay attention.
Yeah, the more you have, you know, you might be sinking, and this could be a chance to cut ties before things get more complicated. But if you only have a couple, then try and work on them, because all of these are solvable as long as you put effort towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. If you like this video, great. That's what we're trying to do. Please give it a like, share it with someone who you think would appreciate this information as well. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks, everyone.